Capcom.
Megaman X8.
Well, look at that, they have a whole new Capcom logo and you've beaten the game and everything. Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Megaman X8. In the last part we finished off the game, and now it's time for us to talk about New Game Plus and the features therein. You do, when you start a New Game Plus file, have to play through Noah's Park again, but immediately upon doing that you can come in here to the R&D lab to get your first bonuses. First off, you can get Zero's Sigma Blade, which is Sigma's sword from the final boss, just about. And it's huge, and we'll see in a few minutes, but we can also get the Alia bullets. We'll talk more about what those are in a second, but as you can see here, notably on the stage select, everything's back down to about 70%. By and large, that last 30% is always just the boss fight. You don't have to collect any of the items and rare medals you've gotten again. But now that we have every character's chips and have beaten the game, we can by and large use their ultimate armors. In this case, we have Ultimate Armor X and White Axle. White Axle is probably the most specific one of the three to unlock, because you need to not only have all of his chip upgrades, but he needs to deal the final blow to Lumine's second form. Thankfully, the team attack counts for this, and that's what you need to do. White Axle, by and large, its benefits are that you can hover indefinitely while shooting, your ground dash is longer and faster, and you can be in a trance forever. Not that that's that big of a deal, but it's there at the least, and it makes fighting the Yellow Brontis here a complete joke. You can unlock this from the title screen to start by using a code that is any indication, any variation of L2, 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 R2, 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 L2, 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 R2. Now let's look at Ultimate Armor X, namely his armor parts. Like, for instance, his head parts. Push up in the attack button to do a powerful uppercut move. You have a Shoryuken. Damage is halved and your footing is maintained. Gain a plasma charge shot that just stops enemies. Move faster than usual. Jump higher and all that. By and large, the ultimate armor in this game is a combination of the Icarus and Hermes armor. The foot armor parts increases your jumping height and movement speed, but you can also dash through enemies without taking damage. You take half damage purely thanks to the body armor, and you don't get recoil when you get hit. And I think it also gives you the Nova Strike. The arm parts gives you just straight up the Mega Man X4 charge shot, which is really good for grinding for chip money with Yellow Bronzes here, because it just stays on for so long. And I believe it also reduces weapon energy usage for special weapons to 0. And the head parts gives you the Shoryuken, which is not very good. You unlock the ultimate armor by loading a game clear save that has all of X's personal chips and all 8 armor pieces, by the way. Or you can use the code left, 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 right, 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 left, 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 right, 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 right. So that's 3 lefts, 3 rights, 4 lefts, 4 rights. And it's worth it, because its Nova Strike is just a little bit powerful. It'll reduce any boss fight basically to 1 HP. You still need to go through their overdrive, but it's pretty good. Also, I didn't really mention it during the main LP, but if you hit Earthrock Trilobite with his weakness, you just destroy his armor outright. Now let's talk about Black Zero and show off his Sigma Blade. And we're just going to do this with Gigavolt Manowar, because you might notice I'm slowly playing through the game again for reasons. So the Sigma Blade, pretty straight up, it's Sigma's sword from the final boss. It is absolutely huge, and it can break barriers basically in one shot. It's my favorite sword for him in the game, because it's just the D-Glaive as an entirely active hitbox. Similarly to X5 and 6, though, the Black Armor Zero appearance isn't just aesthetic, it actively does influence his stats. It doubles his attack power, his dashing speed, and his dashing distance. So his dash is now, good. But it does actively have a trade-off, unlike White Axle and Ultimate Armor X. He takes double damage now as a result. So Glass Cannon, that's still worth having around. And as you can see, the Shoryuken, it has very limited range, but it can do some damage, not gonna lie. Just you have the Nova Strike when you have this armor on, so you might as well use that on the boss fights. The Nova Strike, by the way, it empties its ammo bar with a single use, but it recharges with time, so you can use it multiple times in a stage if you use it early on. It's just, you might as well save it for the boss fight anyway, because you're gonna kill everything else in one hit too. So now let's talk about that Alia bullet we bought at the shop with Gravity Antonian stage, because that allows you to actively select Alia as a playable character by pressing triangle on the character select screen. I believe the way this works is whichever operator you used the most on your main game save, you just unlock in the shop to play as a character, because all 3 are unlockable. But then to unlock the other 2, you need to use them at least 4 times on the New Game Plus file. So Alia is just a model swap of X. You can team up with the main character, she can use all the same weapons, she can basically do everything X can, except for using armor parts, which can be pretty limiting. On top of that, whenever you unlock an operator, you actively have to buy all their upgrades as well separately in the shop, similarly by going to the chip dev menu and then pressing the triangle button to show off Alia's list. It is the exact same list though, so ultimately it's up to you whether or not you want to play through the stages as the operator or their matching normal Maverick Hunter. With that said, there are codes to just unlock the ability to play as them from the start. I think you might still have to buy the bullet in the store at that point, but you can at least unlock them from the start. I believe the code for Alia is down R1, up L1, square, X, triangle, circle. For palette, it's R1X, left, square, square. And for layer, it is square, square, right, X, R1. And the other version controllers like Xbox or Switch are just the equivalent buttons on the controller, whatever you're looking down at. It's neat, but it's ultimately just a cute little extra that feels extra, because two of them are actively worse to play than their Maverick Hunter counterparts, since Alia doesn't have armors, Palette can't use A-Trance, and ultimately they also don't have dialogue with the bosses, which I think could have been kind of funny. Layer is ultimately the best of the three because she can do everything Zero can. The only real difference on New Game Plus between Zero and Layer is that Zero has the Black Zero armor at this point potentially, and that means he can do double damage. Also, that reminds me, Black Zero also has an unlock code. I think it's L1, L1, R1, R1, L1, 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 L1. So 2 L1s, 2 R1s, and then 4 L1s. It's neat. They're cool that they're there, but it's ultimately, again, just a neat little extra. But they are necessary to get 100%, because I think both their upgrades and buying their abilities outright, the ability to use them, is actively counted on the percentage screen. I think. If anything, you know, credit to X-Dive where it goes, as long as that game is still up, which is not going to be for very long in the Asian territories. They gave each of these three characters completely unique movesets, and they feel pretty good in concept, barring some of the cooldowns, but that's the cost of being a gacha game at the end of the day, I suppose. I do wish we got more Mega Man games with this level of little extras in it, though, because it feels like the only other ones that had this level of stuff were like Battle Arc and Star Force for one thing, but those are RPGs, and Maverick Hunter X. So if we had gotten more X-tier Mega Man games during the mid-2000s, we probably would have had a lot of really cool stuff in like a Maverick Hunter X2 or an X9 at the time. But, well, here we are about 20 years later, and, series just sort of ended. I'll talk more about my theories and thoughts for potential X9 in a few minutes, because our main X8 footage is almost done. After this section where I show off Layer coming up here, we're actively gonna head into the X Legacy Collection Volume 2 to show off a few things relevant to the game in there and talk about the Legacy Collection in general. Admittedly, this is also the main reason I did the glitch to get all the medals earlier in the game, by the way, just so I can showcase all their chips as soon as I could without having to do a lot of grinding. Because what they want you to do is just play the game over and over and over and over again until you get all of their unlocks done. And to that extent, it's kind of neat that there's replay value that's worth doing in that regard, but getting everything doesn't ultimately do anything besides just give you the satisfaction. Still, though, at least there's anything you can do on New Game Plus that's different than the first playthroughs, because some games don't really get that right, it feels like.
Mega Man X Legacy Collection.
For now, let's head into Legacy Collection 2. The 8 X games were split into 2 Legacy Collections, Volume 1, that's X's 1 through 4, and Volume 2, that's X's 5 through 8, which makes Legacy Collection 2 kind of a hard sell, not gonna lie, because there's only 2 games in here I really like. They have the usual Legacy Collection touches, usually updated visuals, an X challenge mode that I'll probably handle in its own little mini LP at some point down the line. That's just a massive boss rushes. And a giant in-depth gallery of concept art, of merchandise, of all sorts of really cool stuff. There's even little bios for the bosses in here that I didn't know existed until I recorded this footage. The X collections are easily the best way to play the X games nowadays, if only because while there is some input lag here and there, the extras they have is just really worth experimenting around with, because they added a rookie mode to each of the 8 games that I think halves the damage you take, period, and in X's 4 through 8 also prevents you from dying to spikes and bottomless pits, or at least will save you from some of them. For instance, if I fell into a pit in Avalanche Yeti stage here in X8, I would just respawn behind it and be given the chance to jump it again. I think with some damage taken is all that would happen. It's really cool that these are here. They are the best way to access these games nowadays, and given how low of a print X8 was to begin with, that's really good. So, do I think an X9 can happen? Yes, I really do think it can. Especially now that we just got news, I think while this LP was being recorded, that the X Legacy Collection Volume 1 just passed 1 million sales on its own. We knew the two combined were around 1.4 million for a while there. But now that we know X Legacy Collection 1 sold over 1 million, they're probably going to start looking into some sort of new proper X game. Probably a new Battle Network or Star Force follow-up first, though, because that Legacy Collection reached 1 million in like 2 weeks, which is the only one of those that's done that, which I think is funny. Going into theories, though, I really don't know what they might do for a story for an X9, because this game in general very much leans on this potentially being Sigma's last fight, given how badly his body looked when we got to that final boss. It's not too surprising, but I don't know what direction they would go in with the villain otherwise. Like, they could bring whatever they did with that cliffhanger there with Axel into play, but by and large, any future stuff that Axel shows up in that's meant to be in the same timeline doesn't really bring this up. And from my memory, that includes the Zero timeline story stuff, because for a while there, I had a personal theory that because of the color scheme of Lumine, a corrupted Axel would be the basis for the Omega main body in 03, but now that we have like the complete works and all that out there, like we know that's not the case, so I don't really know what they could do that would be building off of stuff we already know. They could just bring in a new villain, but I doubt they're gonna go all out into the, like, this is the end of the X series kind of deal, because they want to make more games potentially down the line anyway. They're not probably going to make a proper bridge game, Elf Wars type game, as cool as it would be to have. It's just really sad to me that we're now at 3 Mega Man franchises that currently end on a cliffhanger because of low-performing sales at the time, because there's some really good games in here. Either way, let's end this LP off by watching the English trailer.
Congrats on defeating Sigma. I really can't say how many times this makes it, but rest assured, he isn't coming back.
Admittedly, it's interesting seeing like the little differences between the main game and that early version of the trailer, between even like Axel's firing speed and some of the movement speed things, but that's just how game development works. It's interesting seeing how things look in early trailers versus the final release. But with that, I'm going to end the current main X series off here. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great night. Take care. Next time we see the X series, barring me eventually doing a replay of, like, I guess X3 is the only one I really would do at this point. We're gonna tackle the only game remaining, really, that I can think of. That's, Command Mission, which is the RPG. Have a great night, take care, and I'll see you guys next Let's Play, whatever that may be. See you guys then.